Alex is one of my favorite directors working today.
Wow. And were you disappointed? What were you thinking?
It was a lot better than I was expected.
Their comment was, what if it's this big political rant? It didn't have like a political predictions thought to it at all. Hi, I'm Teresa. Welcome to our weekend show of Cocoon Cast, where we deep dive into movies and discuss all things cinema.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. Today we'll be discussing the new movie, Civil War.
Rebecca, we have some spooky Hollywood news.
That's right. NOSFERATEAU is showing off some scares at Cinecon.
Awesome. Let's get started.
When war correspondent Lee Smith and her colleague Joel come back to the United States, they quickly find themselves in the thick of a civil war. Deciding to try and get an interview with the president, who hasn't talked to the media in a long time, they choose to make their way to Washington, D.C. with some friends picked up along the way. But with their country falling apart at the seams with every mile driven, will they make it in time?
Rebecca, you were excited about this movie.
Say less. I saw Alex Garland and I'm like, yes!
And that's all you needed to know.
That's really all I need to know. Alex is one of my favorite directors working today.
Wow. And were you disappointed? What were you thinking?
It was a lot better than I was expected. There's some scenes in the trailer you think they're going to get wrecked, but they're actually more impactful and, dare I say, spookier.
Oh, they were spookier.
There's a scene I'm specifically referencing for that last statement. If you've watched the trailer, you see Jesse Plemons kind of like menacingly try to figure out, what kind of American are you?
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
The scene is so haunting in the finished product.
I know that scene. That is, haunting is a great word. That was spooky, and he's wearing the rose-colored glasses and the camo. And the trailer didn't spoil it for me, and I was cracking up because you and I were talking about it, and I didn't remember the trailers. Literally, we were talking about it, and I'm thinking, oh no, it's going to be Independence Day.
Good morning. In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world. And you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night.
Things are going to blow up. Chaos is going to ensue, everything. It was so much deeper than that. It was journalists going through the United States, as you were saying, trying to get to DC to see the president, interview him, and take pictures along the way. That intrigued me. And as we were talking about, this was A24's largest budget movie?
Yeah, that's correct. This is A24's biggest budgeted film yet. $50 million.
That's it.
That's it?
That's hilarious. I was surprised, to be honest with you, because $50 million, the cinematography was great. We'll get to the music. That was a little wonky. But your buddy Alex Garland directed, top-rated director, good actors and actresses. It felt bigger, and it felt, dare I say, better than a $50 million movie.
The thing that really surprised me, though, and it really shouldn't based on some of the other films I've seen from Alex, is how intimate this story feels, even though you're talking about events in the story that will affect the country in a wider landscape.
That's a great point, because this movie is entitled Civil War, and it's a civil war within the United States, right? A hypothetical one. A comment made from one of our team members, I remember, was, oh no, is this going to be political, right? I'm laughing. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be everybody blowing up, and it's, Independence Day. Their comment was, what if it's this big political rant? It really wasn't. It didn't have any political leanings. in the respect of this is the party to vote for, this is the bad party, this is the good. It didn't have like a political predictions thought to it at all, which I actually appreciated. And literally, we're talking about, as they're taking this road trip to get to the president in DC, they would say how many miles they had left to go. They would come upon all these different people, and literally you didn't know, are they, people that are on their side? Are they good people? Are they bad people? Are they going to try to kill them? Because they're members of the press, and sometimes members of the press that were saying, oh, they're welcome and they're okay, and they want people to go along and just tell the story through the pictures. And sometimes they're like, oh, we're in trouble.
One of the things I thought that was really interesting choice that was made in the production is there's not a lot of visual landmarks that are recognizable. One of the earliest scenes for defining a character is taking place in this generic shopping mall with a helicopter crash. And you could easily picture this being any shopping mall.
Oh, very much. We looked at that and we said, oh my gosh, that could be near us.
I thought that was pretty smart because they waited for the emotional impact of, these landmarks being destroyed for DC. They waited, they kind of held off on it. It didn't become so sensationalistic as a result, and I think that serves the movie well.
To me, it allowed the characters to talk, build relationships. You think about it, right? They're in this van and they're going to DC, and they were having conversations. And you had made a comment. Do you remember talking about feeling like they were talking to the audience?
There's one really good line that Kirsten Dunst's character has in the trailer. She talks about, every time I took a picture, I was sending a message home. Please don't do this.
Every time I survived a war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
In the film, the line is still spoken, which is another thing I like that they kept the line. The line is still spoken, but the context is it's after you see Kirsten Dunst's character have these flashbacks to all of these horrible things that they're documenting. It almost feels like a director with their camera showing the audience all these horrible things. Don't do this.
It was interesting. She had made another comment where Jessie, the young girl who was part of their team, she had said, oh, we need to say everything, we need to tell them. And Kirsten Dunst's character, Lee, she had said, no, you take the picture and then that tells the story. And I thought that's a good point, that their goal is not to say the words to interpret everything, but to just document that.
I think that's especially more powerful to me, especially considering that Alex has said, and he's kind of flip-flopped on this, that this was supposed to be his last film that he's going to be directing as a solo effort.
That was your understanding up until what? How long before we were ready to record this?
Up until about 8 hours ago, and then I did some auxiliary research, and he's going to be co-directing another film. So time will tell if this is indeed his last film, but it's a pretty potent statement of a film, irregardless.
The lighting was great. I enjoyed the visual. It was actually a very beautiful movie. I honestly had concerns once I remembered, what this was, because like I said, I couldn't remember the trailer. But once I'm like, oh, they're following the photojournalists, they have a goal, they have a plan. Then it became, is this going to be really gory? How is this going to be? And there was some gore, but not excessive to the point where it detracted.
You're kind of aware of how fake it is in some ways. Some of the colors are more saturated to give it that feel. It doesn't feel as realistic in some ways.
I noticed
in the moments where it was realistic, it was done intentionally.
That's a great point, though, because I remember that there was some blood and it was red of a color that I don't really recognize. It's not like if you scrape yourself, you go, oh, that's what it looks like. It was like, oh. The other part, I remember one of our team members had said the sound design was phenomenal. We saw it in XD.
I love the sound design in this film.
The sound design, you had compared the sound design to one of Jonathan Glazer's movies, right? Zone of Interest.
Yeah, if you've seen Zone of Interest, you'll recognize kind of the delay in sound, but also the choice when there's absence of sound as well.
That's true. There were many points where it was not. To me, it was interesting because there was dialogue, of course. The dialogue was pretty smart. The characters were very believable. But it didn't fill, like you said, all the space. There was space to breathe in the movie. And I actually appreciated that even between events. It wasn't just bam, bam, bam. We have to cram as many things in as possible. I look back on it and I think, oh my gosh, I can remember when they encountered the people at the gas station. I can remember the people that they encountered at the camp. I can remember. It's easy to put into place, and the pacing I thought was actually pretty good. It didn't go too fast in my mind.
I was talking with somebody else on our team earlier today. I mentioned that the movie felt faster.
It did. What do we always complain about, right? Movies are too long. They need to shave time off. I don't think that they needed to shave any time off. However, the ending, and I don't want to spoil it, I think they could have done a little bit more with the ending.
And I know you and I were disagreeing about that on the ride to the studio. I thought the ending was fine. I'm like, there is no other way they could end this without making it a solid film.
It's not to say that the ending wasn't satisfying. I felt that, I agree with you, that they needed to end it, of course. I don't think it was a bad ending, and to me, it fit the narrative. It wasn't like, where in the world did this come from? I just think the last scene was the big culminating scene, and I think it went a little bit faster than it needed to on that.
I think it's interesting, though, some of the choices that they made with the script. Mm-hmm. I know there's one scene where a couple characters are talking, and one character's like, hey, this feels familiar, this feels safe, and another character goes, this doesn't feel safe, this feels like more what we're used to with the chaos. And you see the camera almost look up as the other character looks up, and then it kind of settles down. I think there's a lot of smart choices that our cinema community will be rewarded with this movie. I was really surprised to learn that this is the same gal that we reviewed in Priscilla earlier, Kaylee Spaney.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't recognize her, which obviously the costuming and the setting. It's interesting because I wasn't overly enamored with her from Priscilla, and it's not to say she wasn't a great actress, it's not to say she didn't do well. It just didn't hit me as hard. I know our cinema community really responded strongly to Priscilla. This movie, I had a lot stronger of a connection with her.
I agree. I feel like she kind of had that young Jodie Foster quality where she had the maturity, but she also kind of had that childishness that comes from being a younger person in this story.
That's a great comparison. I like that. And Kirsten Dunst was in it, and we were laughing. She's not only Mary Jane from Spider-Man, she's done a lot.
It's really cool to see Kirsten take on these independent films. I know my favorite film of hers that's an independent movie is Melancholia. Really recommend you to check it out. It's a nice Lars von Trier flick. It's kind of cool to see her be like, you know what, I have the freedom to do this, and directors like Alex supporting her this. Also, her husband, Jesse Plemons, is...
Yes, I remember one of our cinema communities like, they're married! And we're like, yeah. He's the creepy dude with the rose-colored glasses that we were referencing early. Well, and it was funny, too, because I remember one of our team had said, that'd be weird. You're in there, and that's your wife, and you have to be this creepy guy, and you might kill her. I'm like, yeah, that I hope that never happens in my side of the fence. I'm like, whoa.
That's good acting, right?
It was interesting because his part was not huge.
That's what she said.
But it wasn't just, oh, you see him in the trailer, and you're like, oh, he's kind of a creepy guy. It was... He was so impactful in that scene, but his performance was great.
He also creates consequences our characters have to live with later. And that's not easy for a character actor to do. Is you're supposed to be locked in this one scene, but you're also supposed to create an impact that the audience is going to be like, oh, of course that happened when you ran into this character.
Chaos ensues.
You know who really stole my heart in this movie was Wagner Moura. I feel like he did such a fantastic job in this film.
It was interesting. Originally, I didn't like him. He was kind of rough. He just felt very jaded. It just was like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to like him in this role. But there were soft spots that he let his guard down. His humanity showed. And it really, when I walked away, I really was thinking, what would it be like if our country was in a civil war? We were talking about, over time or more landmarks. I know one of our team members was saying it was very emotional because there were different landmarks that we would recognize, and seeing the destruction and to see what could possibly happen. But as you said, you know him from what?
He was in Narcos, but for
I
our
remember
younger cinema
Narcos.
community, you
Yes.
might recognize him as the wolf in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
I did not know that either. Boy, I just felt like I really walked in there not knowing enough about the movie. Obviously, after the fact, we understand more, but because I was trying to avoid the spoilers, I felt like, gosh, I missed that. But because the movie resonated so much with me, I was able to really think about it later. It didn't feel like I missed it, ultimately. Meaning, after the fact, I'm like, okay, I can still remember that. Oh, I still liked that part of it.
Well, the other thing is this gives you kind of an advantage, too. You have a distance perspective, so you can let things hit you as they hit you.
Correct. But it's awkward because it's like, oh, I should know. I wish I would know. But it was okay. And it was a much, much, much better movie than I thought it would be, especially going in there with the expectation of they're going to blow everything up. And I'm laughing. I'm thinking, if it's Pacific Rim.
It is pretty cool.
Like, oh no, it's going to be such a disappointment. But we went to a really late showing and it wasn't packed, but there were lots of pockets of people. And ultimately, I remember when we got up, people were clapping. People really had a good response to this movie. Do we have any questions from the box?
We've mentioned movies like Independence Day and other things, which are pretty campy. Aliens, president flying planes, the whole bit. Did this movie get campy at all, or was it a serious look at what's going to happen to our country if we get into a civil war?
I was so worried this movie was going to veer into camp territory. Not because I don't enjoy a good campy movie, but I wanted a serious look, and I got it here. That being said, I think sometimes it felt a little too real. There's one scene Teresa mentioned earlier in the review about the gas station where you see these two people basically being tortured to death. And it felt very real to me because I spend time paying attention to the media and I've seen pictures from other countries, and it was very strange being divorced from that, seeing this is a potential future, but also this feels like right here, right now kind of moment.
I know we had reviewed Kiss the Future on Cocoon Cast. We had talked about Sarajevo, and there was a lot of documentation about what that looked like.
The urge for art amplified.
We had this wonderful scene, having a disco in the middle of the war. It's the only thing that kept us going.
Somebody tells you, you got 5 minutes. What would you do? You do what you like the most.
And it was interesting because we talked about the landmarks we know here. We were commenting and wondering if for them it feels the same way, seeing buildings that they know or landmarks being destroyed. I think that's what also resonated with it. But you're right, other countries, there was a scene early on, there was a man in a tire, and I won't go into it too much, but he was being tortured. And honestly, I had to look away because it felt so possibly real in our world. And I say possibly because I haven't experienced that. I haven't seen that in real life, but to know that that's a very strong possibility. And then I was able to glide into the movie a little bit more and watch the different awkward and hard to watch scenes. But it didn't feel campy. I'm laughing. We talk about political campy movies. I think of Dave with Kevin Kline and Sigourney Weaver, and that's one of our favorites. But it didn't have that feel, and I was so thankful it wasn't a campy movie around such a serious topic that's, I think, weighs on the minds of a lot of people. Do we have any other questions from the box?
The trailer makes it appear like it's a pretty action-packed movie, and there was definitely action in it, but do you think someone's going to be disappointed if they're expecting basically all action and no deep thought or reflection or pauses in the action?
I think you're going to be very disappointed if you're going into this looking for kind of this gung-ho, shoot-'em-up kind of film. This is a contemplative slow burn. Having said that it's a slow burn, however, I want to point out that there are some action scenes that are spread out, but they're designed to create tension. They're designed for you to start to kind of quiver in your seat and kind of shrink in a little bit, wondering what's going to happen to the characters. Not, oh, there's your payoff. It really is a catch and release situation on this.
That's a good way to describe it, because it wasn't culminated into one scene although getting to DC was their goal. But along the way, honestly, I think that made the movie more palatable to me because I was able to reflect and to sit. And as you said, the tension was building. And then there was a very unsettled feel throughout the whole movie because they were never safe.
There's this one picture I always think of when I think of 28 Days Later. It's a film that Alex Rowe, Danny Boyle directed it with Cillian Murphy. The iconic picture is Cillian Murphy kind of wandering over in London, and he's all alone. He's kind of empty. You can't see anything. It's the emptiness that's creating that unsettling vibe. You get a lot of that with this movie.
Rebecca, it is that time of the show. We have 5 moths. 5 moths. What do you think? 1 to 5.
4 moths are going to be flying in my direction today.
Wow. Number 1 reason.
I like the fact that it is a slow burn. I like the fact that you don't know everything about the characters. Your mind allows you to kind of construct this story for the characters, but then you see the actions that create conflict, and it doesn't have to be this big, massive conflict. There's all these little micro moments that add up into something special here.
All right. 1 to 5 for me. I would also give it a 4.
We matched today.
Who is more surprised than me? No one. I enjoyed this movie so much more than I thought it would. And I think I have to go, okay, so if it's a 4, why isn't it a 5? I think for me, the 2 big reasons are, I believe the ending could have had more weight because the whole movie was weighty. And the events in the end themselves were weighty, but somehow it didn't translate fully. I also think, I know we talk about the music on Cocoon Cast, and there's a scene, and if you see it, you'll know it. There's Christmas ornaments everywhere, Christmas decorations. Santa Claus is not a friendly, happy camper, just fair warning. There was music in that scene that was very ironic and it felt like very intentionally chosen. However, after they left Santa Claus, after they left the Winter Wonderland, the music felt sporadic. It didn't feel as intentional, and it didn't feel as impactful.
I know you and I talked about the tone shift at times was very jarring, and that's a great example of that.
Hey, Cinema Community, are you planning to go see Civil War? If so, don't forget to comment below. Let us know you saw it and your moth rating, 1 to 5. Remember, no spoilers. And if you're not planning to go see it, let us know what's your favorite war movie. I know what my favorite war movie is. It's A Private War, which was a few years ago.
Rosamund Pike?
Yes.
Excellent as always.
Exactly. True story also. So, hey, go check it out.
If you enjoyed our review on Civil War, please like, which helps more viewers find our cinema community, and it's subscribe, which really helps us out, and you won't miss our upcoming reviews, and please share with your friends.
Hey, Rebecca, it's that time of the show to talk about who we are not sponsored by.
You got anybody snappy today?
You're just not even like phased. It's like, hey, we're not sponsored. Yeah, okay, well, bring it on.
Well, you never know. One of these days we'll get sponsored, right?
One of these days. Hopeful, hopeful, hopeful. Today we are not sponsored by Canon cameras.
Oh, snappy.
Literally very snappy. I'm thinking this movie's about photojournalists. Boy, the things that they are taking pictures of. Everybody needs a camera. Without the camera, this movie would be dead on arrival. You think they want to sponsor us?
Yeah, I'm going to guess no, right?
They just don't. We ask, we beg, please. But no, they are a fabulous company. They started off in Japan in 1933. They were Precision Optical Instruments Laboratories.
That's a lot harder to say than Canon.
Yeah, I know. Canon, I think, was kind of the goal, right? But they've done all these things. I remember you and I were talking. I had told you I was looking up, I was doing some research, right? Calling them, got to know what they're doing out there. 1940, they did an X-ray camera.
Well, that is very useful.
I thought so too. Zoom lenses for television, introduced in 1958. They have grown. They are a huge company now. They are literally worth $30 billion as of 2022.
You think they'd throw us some money to sponsor us?
I'm thinking so. So I'm thinking, okay, they're making that much money. How many employees do they have? They have 184,034 employees, bigger than many cities in our area.
I know that's right.
It's like a Canon little city out there. So I'm thinking, what do they have to offer there? So they're not offering us money. They must offer a good and wonderful and useful service. And I would be right. They do. If you go onto their website, they have a little tab. It's called Learning Center. underneath the Learning Center, they have training and articles. And to say they have a ton of articles is not a mistake. I'm thinking maybe they're all this, technical foo-foo stuff that, you and I are like, I don't know. But that's not true. They have practical things, right? How do you support your camera on a tripod? That's pretty useful. We just had our solar eclipse. How to take, pictures and exposure with the solar eclipse. I'm like, okay, that's pretty timely. And then they had some really weird and interesting ones. My favorite was 5 pumpkin carving stencils for Halloween.
Oh, so you can take like pictures of the jack-o'-lanterns though.
Okay, so you don't think it's so weird. I'm over here going, well, that's kind of weird. And you're like, oh, that's useful. I'm like, I thought the solar eclipse one was kind of useful, actually.
That one sounds useful, but won't be useful for another 40 years.
Yeah, right. That's not too helpful. But your favorite one and my favorite one is probably going to be actually the same. Well, actually, they have two. They have the 30-day photo challenge. Every day, send a picture. And on their website, they literally have it where you can post. And I am not kidding. I went on there. They have 209,000 members. 15,000 people were online as I'm doing research. I'm like, oh my gosh, all over everywhere. People are reading this. They had over 300,000 posts. How to even find the things that you need? People are talking and people love Canon camera.
Thanks, Canon Camera, for keeping it snappy and not sponsoring us. It's that time in the show where we want to hear from you. We'd love to see your comments on our videos, especially your rating of the movie and why. Now let's talk about some of those cool comments we've been getting, Teresa.
First up, we have, this is an unusual name.
Okay.
User BC4V6GN4K.
You think they like movies in 4K?
I think it was a coincidence, but I don't know. Tell us your name. That really makes... But here's what they had to say about our review of Cabrini. Fantastic movie.
That's it?
Yeah, their name is longer than their comment.
Okay.
Wow. Thanks. We appreciate it. We agree. The movie was fantastic. Name, a little bit confusing.
Next up, we have a faithful member of our cinema community, JJW77, who commented on our review of Monkey Man. Here's what they had to say. Teresa and Rebecca, your reviews are to the point and interesting. I'm very glad to hear that. We try to tape them under 15 minutes for the box. It's very enjoyable for me to watch and listen to you both while crocheting. Do you like to crochet? I'm trying to work on it.
I don't know how to crochet. I'm laughing. I'm like, well, okay, we can be to the point sometimes. Interesting. We're trying. It's nice to know we're enjoyable. That's a really great thing. But I just love this visual of the unknown person in our cinema community crocheting. I'm thinking, there's like pot holders happening. It's just what this wonderful visual of, wow, you can listen, think about movies, and still do something you love.
I think this comment proves an interesting point. You mentioned the crochet and just kind of peacefully making some pot holders or whatever. I think it's kind of nice when people share podcasts and let us into your life. You don't have to, but you choose to, and we appreciate that every day. Finally, we have Trey Daniel 0403, who commented on a news article about the new Matrix movie. Here's what they had to say. I'd rather watch a Matrix prequel instead. If they are making a 5th sequel, though, bring back Hugo Weaving, and especially Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus, instead of replacing him with a younger actor, Yahya Abdul Mateen II. No offense to him, but The Matrix wouldn't be the same without Lawrence and Hugo. Don't forget to bring back Keanu Reeves and carry on Moss too. I'm torn. I love all of these actors. I love their roles, but I was really happy to see them kind of try to move on.
Uh-oh. Not everybody's going to agree with you in our cinema community, I hear.
No, and the other thing is they talked about Morpheus's replacement was because he's dead.
Well, that's true. That's kind of hard to bring him back. That sounds like a whole other movie.
Yeah, no, it was just... I love Hugo Weaving. He's very iconic. I love Carrie. She's my favorite. I love Keanu. He's awesome. But there's a time and a place where you need to move on from a franchise like this. And I know it's going to ruffle some feathers, tickle some moth wings, but if there's a reason why they're trying to do a sequel, they're trying to show that there's other stories in the Matrix. For those of you who are interested in some Matrix prequel material, I highly recommend the Matrix miniseries comics they did in the early 2000s. Bill Siskinas did the art. He did a lot of art for iconic Marvel characters. There's also the Animatrix, which has a couple self-contained stories that are set up as prequel material for the Matrix.
Now it's time for some Hollywood news. Rebecca, what's going on out there?
Well, I want to know if you can dig it because Cons has just announced their lineup for this year.
Ooh, and who are you reading this from?
This is from Deadline and a new writer, Zach Nintim.
Wow. All right, what's Zach telling us?
We've got a lot of really cool names up for presentation. We have a David Cronenberg movie, which, spoiler, I think I'm the most excited for on the team.
I was saying, I'm still sitting in my chair and you're like, I think I'm the most excited. I think you're the most excited.
I'm a sucker for a good Cronenberg movie.
Yes, you are. Who else is out there? Maybe other names that I could get a little excited about?
Paul Schrader.
All right, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm moving.
You like him?
All right, pulse is going up a little bit over here.
Yorgos.
Oh.
With some Emma Stone.
Oh, she's like his muse now. She's just like going to be everywhere all at once.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, right?
Going for that one. We have a very interesting film that I only just learned about an hour before I saw this article.
Oh.
Sebastian Stan is going to be playing a very controversial political figure.
Is it a spoiler to say who?
No, it's about the entire movie. He's going to be playing Donald Trump.
Oh, wow.
I like Sebastian Stan, and he's a good character actor. I'm curious to see how he's going to pull this off.
Oh my. It just feels, yeah, I know. It's like a little here, a little here, a little there. Anyone else or
there's a musical with Selena Gomez happening as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. You just never know. That's why I'm laughing, because it's not like, oh, it's gonna be like, I don't even know what to say because I don't even know what's gonna show up.
Oh, speaking of things we weren't expecting it to show up, Francis Ford Coppola's Megaopolis.
Oh, he's back. He hasn't retired yet, has he?
Nope. That man will keep making movies until he dies.
I think so. Are you excited about the movie, or?
I'm excited because I'm going to sound like a terrible person for saying this. The production behind this thing has been an utter train wreck of just gigantic proportions. I'm just curious to see if it's going to turn into an actual film we'll want to watch, or if it's just going to turn into a Brazil situation where we'll find the really good film like so many years later.
Oh, wow. And when's that supposed to drop?
That will be having a gala premiere on the 17th. That's the Friday evening slot.
Of what month?
May.
Okay. So very soon then.
Very soon. And then we have Mad Max a few days later. So we've already talked about that.
Oh, you're excited about that one.
This is the one I know a lot of people in our cinema community were talking to me about, and especially some of our team were really excited. Kevin Costner's American Saga, that first film is going to be premiering too.
That I'm actually excited about. I know, love him or hate him. I still remember, him with the whole Dances with Wolves. And I remember I was in college. I remember Drag the Box to go with me. And he's like, wow, that's really long. And I'm like, yeah, it was. But I enjoyed it. I mean, obviously there were some things that didn't necessarily age too well. I'll be honest with you, where I'm like, oh, I don't think that was a good move. And how you portrayed that person and said that, I'm like, ooh, I don't. But I think it put him on the map. And it sounds like that's what he does well. He's done other movies that I actually think he's pretty good in, a little bit more serious. I can't remember the sports movie. I know the box likes it.
Oh, Draft Day.
Yeah. Okay. So you know this. But I don't know. I'm kind of, I admit, I'm a little bit more excited about that than a Trump movie. I'll be honest.
I will wholeheartedly admit I'm more excited about that. But I think both movies have things that make things interesting. For me personally, the Kevin Costner movie to beat is The Postman. I know the box loves Waterworld, but for me, The Postman.
It's the same movie.
It's not the same movie.
It's the same movie.
The future. The polar ice caps have melted, covering the Earth with water. In the future, after the Great War, our civilization lies in ruin. Government does not exist. Technology has been erased. And everything man remembers is gone.
There's a jet ski. It's the exact same movie. I'm sorry. Hey, cinema community, if you've seen The Postman and Waterworld, same movie. It is the same. And it's even Kevin Costner. He's either water, he's on a ski. He has the same dramatic dilemma, I'm telling you.
It's not the same dilemma. He's not delivering mail on jet skis.
Oh, but is he not? I question.
He's got a small child that's trying to help him find a map to the new world. It's basically Christopher Columbus set in the future on jet skis with Mad Max.
All I'm saying is I rue the day when I said, hey, you want to read this book?
The book was great, too.
Oh, boy. And now he's got a hat and boots, and you're going to put him back on a jet ski with mail. Wow, it's the trifecta of Kevin Costner.
He will give them courage.
It's the new remake of You Got Mail, folks.
Exactly, right. It's not the Wicked Little Letters, because then they could just merge the two and be like, there's
Wicked Little Letters on jet skis with flamethrowers. Interesting.
And a cowboy hat.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. Do we have any questions from the box?
As we're recording this, the news that Francis Ford Coppola's wife just died literally an hour or two ago. Do you think that's going to affect Megalopolis and whether it's going to come out in a reasonable time?
I now firmly believe in a Megapolis curse, thanks.
Oh.
I think this is just further proof that the film is cursed. Half of their special effects crew had already walked off due to labor disputes. They've already gone over their budget. Having said all of that, I feel especially bad for Frances and Sophia with the rest of their family. I know Sophia had specifically put her part in promoting Priscilla on hold, a large part because she knew her mother was sick.
As much as we like to be silly, you are right that we do feel bad for the family. It is a possibility, however, this could postpone that or delay that. And maybe that does mean Kevin Costner floats a little bit forward.
It's really interesting to see sometimes just how real life kind of comes in between making movies. Francis has been trying to make this for decades.
I don't think it's I won't do it. It may be I'm doing this in honor of my family and of my wife. Or it may be I need to slow down and catch my breath. I know you and I had discussed an article about my favorite, Ryan Gosling, and how he had said, I took 4 years off to be with my children when they were young.
I'm having flashbacks to, what is it, Godfather Part 3, when his son was killed.
Oh, I remember this.
And it really affected like his work output because he said, I want to spend more time with my family. I want to get to know my movies more through the lens of looking at them with my family and long term, how are these memories going to be made?
Good for him. That's the attitude. Rebecca, what else is going on out there?
Well, for those of you in our cinema community who are movie theater purveyors and movie theater employees, CinemaCon happened this week.
And we didn't go.
We were not invited.
It's not that we missed it. We weren't invited. No scalping, nothing. Just no.
There was so much news coming out of CinemaCon. I had a hard time narrowing it down. I literally was like, okay, we have an S word every time we start the show, so spooky it is.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
Robert Eggers showed off some footage from NOSFERATEU.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say, and the Joker had a trailer that came out.
I want to see the real you.
Oh, he did. We can talk about that next.
Move on. Right, all right. Talk about your movie.
Focus Features is definitely playing it spooky this Christmas. They're going to be releasing a remake of NOSFERATEU from Robert Eggers, aka the guy who did The Lighthouse and The Norseman. That's right. If his output wasn't already scary enough, you've got this going on.
Oh, Lighthouse. I remember that. That came out. That was just like poof. And you're reading this from where? Because obviously we weren't there.
We've got a twofer. It's Nancy Tarlagoni and Anthony D'Alessandro from Deadline.
I was going to say Anthony. Okay, we could say Anthony. All right, he was there.
They also talked about some other films. I know you, I, and the rest of our team have been anxiously awaiting for Bike Riders.
Oh.
So that's confirming. It is coming out soon. They're not going to push it again. Please don't push it again. I want to see this movie.
Delay.
They also showed off some footage from Back to Black, the Amy Winehouse.
Oh, that's going to be controversial.
But we're going to see it and we're going to review it.
I agree. I think that's going to be a tearjerker, though.
And a surprise film, a papal thriller called Conclave. No, I have no idea what that's about either.
Okay, I'm like, yeah, all right.
Going
I know.
papal? I don't know.
Wow. You're excited, though.
I'm excited. Focus Features is very
I like focus. Yeah, they're very focused. But I like focus features most of the time.
I like them, A24 and Bleecker Street.
Oh, yeah. No, right? So this should be good.
We've got a pretty solid lineup. I know you and I talked about over the holidays, we definitely want to see some of the spooky films. And this just solidifies the spook factor.
You and the spooky. I know. As soon as it's spooky, it's like you light up and exude spooky energy over there.
I have a special history of Nosferatu, though.
Oh, do you care to share with our cinema community your special history?
I used to run the film club when I was in high school, and this was the first film that our club voted on to watch. So we all, as a club, after finals, some of us had no finals, but we still had to stay at school, so we turned on the black and white version of Nosferatu, the original one, and the box actually took it and put it on a DVD for us because it's in the public domain, so we were able to watch it.
Wow. I'm laughing. You're older than you look. Back in the day at high school, I'm laughing because I'm thinking, boy, you sell yourself short. You were in the principal's office with a proposal, and you're like, I need a faculty advisor, and this is the club I want to have, and I'm going to start it, and I'm going to promote it, and people are going to come. We're going to do this at lunch, and holy cow, I think most of your senior class were there watching movies, and you're like, and this is what we're looking for, people. This is what we need to pay attention to. You have loved movies before then. You have always loved movies, so you're right. There is a special history and affection that you have.
It's also one of the first silent movies that I was able to watch. I will say, if you're kind of bored and you want to watch something spooky, the Werner Herzog remake is actually pretty fun too.
Do we have any questions from the box?
If you could only go to one, would you pick Cons, which is a little bit more elevated and artsy, or would you go with a more nerdist route and go to CinemaCon, which gets more technical and into the weeds?
Team weeds. I like CinemaCon because it's all about these studios saying, here's what our lineup is this year. The festivals sometimes are hit or miss, and I know they've become a lot more glamorous in the last few decades, but it's really interesting to see people try to sell you on their movie, and then they start talking about what makes their movie special, and you start getting more invested in it in that way. I feel like CinemaCon has the potential to kind of become a popularity contest based on what movies are being completely shown and what's being premiered at, say, like a trailer or maybe some behind-the-scenes footage. But I think it's less of that way than, say, like Cannes or the Venice Film Festival.
I think it's tricky, too, because they're not going to be able to see the full movie. And to see a clip or an extended clip most of the time, but a clip or a trailer, I think that would be tricky to go, okay, then I take this back, and how do I decide?
That's why I like it when they actually show the full movie, though. Mm-hmm. There are some studios that do that.
I think I would want that, but I understand time-wise that's probably not always going to happen.
That's also where film festivals have a little bit of an advantage, is it's set programming. It's not like, say, a comic book convention where you have different overlapping events happening.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Well, let's see what's coming out next year. Ooh, I know you're excited. Thanks for joining us this week. We're always excited to create experiences to bring our cinema community together.
Next week, we are excited to be reviewing The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare on our Movies and More weekly show. And we will be doing a 60-second review of the new movie, Sasquatch Sunset. If you're enjoying the 60-second reviews, comment below and let us know.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and to share our channel.
If you enjoyed this show, you might check out last week, where we reviewed Wicked Little Letters, and on our Movies and More weekly show, we reviewed Monkey Man.
Remember, cinema community movies are better together. Thanks for watching. See you in the next review.